So as you see, today the caption is God found in nature, nature fulfilled in God. This is in Savitri, Book 1, Canto 3. But we'll go back to the previous stanza to get the full picture. As we know, Ashapati, the protagonist, who also is the human representative of human aspiration for a godly life on earth. So he represents the whole of humanity, and he, seeing all the maladies earthly or human being faces on earth, he seeks the solution of all these human maladies while ascending through the different worlds, spiritual realms, and finds out where the problem, the difficulties lie. Here, as a sculptor chisels a deity out of stone, he slowly chipped off the dark envelope, line of defense of nature's ignorance, the illusion and mystery of the inconscient, in whose black pearl the eternal wraps his head, that he may act unknown in cosmic time. So this is the previous stanza of the main stanza we'll look at. So what Sri Aurobindo says here, as a sculptor chisels a deity out of stone. We have seen sculptor chiseling, cutting the stone, and out of the stone he throws out the unwanted parts, and out of that he makes out so beautifully a statue, or gives a beautiful shape to the stone. Or at times we see a whole lot of story depicted through this sculpture. So in the process, it's an analogy here Sri Aurobindo has put. He says that as a sculptor chisels a deity out of stone, like a sculptor chisels out a deity out of stone, he, that is Ashapati, slowly chipped off the dark envelope, line of defense of nature's ignorance. Normally, all human beings, all of us, are full of ignorance, which is quite natural when one lives on earth. So, knowing fully well now Ashapati, because he has gone through those different realms, different worlds, and finding where the problem lies, he now knows, and acquiring the spiritual power, slowly chipped off the dark envelope which is full of ignorance. That was the line of defense of nature's ignorance. The illusion and mystery of the inconscient, in whose black pearl the eternal wraps his head, that he may act unknown in cosmic time. Because all the problems, the roots of all the human problems lie somewhere else. That is why we do not know, and because we do not know where the problem lies, we cannot solve it also. We cannot address it also, because it is lying on the depth of the inconscient, the bedrock of all problems. That is the nethermost region of which we have already discussed, that is the inconscient. So there lies the key. But in this inconscient also, what Aurobindo says, divine or God wraps his head, that he may act unknown in cosmic time. Even in the inconscient, though it is the nethermost region, though it is the totally dark realm out of which all our ignorance crops up, our problems and difficulties crops up, in this region also, the divine is embedded there. And even when nobody knows that he is there, he does his work remaining there in time, in cosmic time. So now we know that Ashapati, going through the different worlds, spiritual realms, different worlds, different realms of the spirit, he acquires those spirits and powers and puts it into use, so that being a representative of the humanity, he can chisel out, or whatever is not required, that he can reject through the spiritual powers. Now the next stanza, it is the splendor of self-creation from the peaks, a transfiguration in the mystic depths. A happier cosmic working could begin and fashion the world shape in him anew. God found in nature, nature fulfilled in God. He also knows now that since it is the divine or God who is the creator, and it is the self-creation, the whole cosmos is a self-creation out of himself only, or it is kind of a self-projection into manifestation. So he now knows that this world being a part, is earth being a part of the whole creation, the author of which is the divine only, God only. He can fashion the world shape in him also. In him means Ashapati also, because he represents the humanity. And Sri Aurobindo says that God found in nature, nature fulfilled in God, because that is the purpose of creation, to bring together and unite the two ends of the truth in manifestation. These two, that is God and nature, are not two opposite poles contradicting each other, but they are reconcilable. They complement each other when brought together. When harmonized together, then they complement each other and fulfill each other and establish and can establish in this earthly nature also divine's rule or God's rule, because that is the intention of the God. God unveils himself in nature, then nature manifests God. And all the world moves towards this supreme culmination only, to become godlike or divine. But you see, this inner awakening, this can be done much faster. Here comes Aurobindo's integral yoga, the concept of integral yoga, because this inner awakening, if it is done in a man, then it becomes more purposive and faster also. The more we go inward and awaken the spirit within, and with that spirit, the force of the spirit can act outside whatever we do, then it becomes faster to manifest the divine. That is why it becomes more imperative, more relevant, Sri Aurobindo's integral yoga. In fact, normally, even though the yoga is done by God, the divine, always, it has its slow pace. And only when the time comes, the proper time, there also comes vibhutis or avatars to precipitate the process of evolution, of which we have talked a lot of times earlier also. So, like this, Sri Aurobindo came, the mother herself came down, took physical bodies to precipitate the whole process of evolution of consciousness. That is why it is so relevant. In fact, Savitri is the autobiography of Sri Aurobindo. In fact, whatever Ashapati goes through, in fact, it is Sri Aurobindo who goes through all those realms, because he wants to get rid of the malady, human malady, as a representative. That is why he came. So here also you can take a look at book 11, the analogy we find here. Two are the powers that hold the ends of time. Spirit foresees, matter unfolds its thought. The dumb executor of God's decrees, omitting no iota and no dot. Agent unquestioning, inconscient, stuck, evolving inevitably a charged content. Two are the powers that holds the ends of time, spirit and matter. Because matter is nothing but the other side of the divine, which has come down and remained there as matter itself. That means gross matter, which takes lot of time to reveal the spirit. But eventually, because it is the spirit or the divine himself in going down right up to the matter and become matter, so ultimately it is again his decree which he will manifest, and there will be no iota and no dot. Agent unquestioning, inconscient and stark. Even though it is inconscient, even though it is darkest of the realms, still out of that only it has to evolve. And that is what we see in the concept of evolution. Sri Aurobindo's concept of evolution, because the divine goes right down to the pit of the matter, to the inconscient level, and there, because he is there, because nothing is out of divine, and there itself in the inconscient, he becomes, lights up, and because there it is fixed, it is lighted, so the other which it exerts the pressures, which the inconscient exerts up to the next level, that is the subconscious, and also the subconscious on its part exerting pressure to the outer conscious part of a human being. All those problems and difficulties which we face subsequently and eventually, these will be going away slowly, because there in the pit, in the inconscient, the divine has lighted up, evolving inevitably a charged content. Because that is, again in the next line he says, intention of his force in time and space, in inanimate beings and inanimate things, immutably it fulfills its ordered task. Because it is divine's ordered task that it has to evolve. Even the inconscient has to evolve, and it evolves to the next level, then to the next level, then from the conscient to the next higher level. That is how we see the planes of consciousness rising up like ladders. The first movement is the involution, and the returning movement is called evolution. So here I would like to read a few more stanzas which are very relevant in this context, from his poem A God's Labor. I would not read the whole poem because it's very long, but intermittently I will go, because this is very relevant and so beautiful. I'm sure you would agree with me. He who would bring the heavens here must descend himself into clay, and the burden of earthly nature bear, and tread the dolorous way. He who wants to bring down heaven here on earth, he has to go to the pit, in this case the inconscient, because there lies the problem, the root of the problem. If it is not fixed there, if whatever problem a human being faces on earth is not addressed to where it is rooted, then we have no chance at all for upliftment, for progress. But we are not here for staying put wherever we are. We have to progress. So that is why Sri Aurobindo himself has gone there. See, coercing my Godhead, I have come down here on the sordid earth, ignorant, laboring, human grown twixt the gates of death and birth. Coercing my Godhead means I was God, the divine, but I have left my right over there in the divine realm, up there, because it is the earth I am concerned about. Somewhere else he has written that heaven is one, heaven is already conquered, but earth remains as yet, because earth is still under grip of the inconscient, the dark powers, who still rule the earth nature. That is why he himself has gone down, coercing my Godhead. I have given up my right of Godhead and come down here on the sordid earth, this troublesome earth. I have come down and become ignorant, laboring, human grown, you and me, like he has become you and me only. But in essence, he is not that. He is the splendor, he is the divinity. But he has coerced that and come down like you and me to take the trouble and sort out the problem also. twixt the gates of death and birth. Twixt the gates of death and birth means he has been coming and going, coming and going. In fact, this is not the first birth he has taken here, as we all know now. In fact, he has been coming in different avatars. At different times, he has taken different responsibilities for the humanity, shouldering the responsibilities of the humanity. And in the process, finally, this time, he has taken the most arduous task of transforming human nature, which is the melody. I have been digging deep and long mid a horror of field and mire, a bed for the golden river's song, a home for the deathless fire. So he digs deep and long mid the horror of field and mire, because it is very difficult. You and me cannot imagine even what those realms, what those regions are, the darkest region. Here itself on earth, we face so much of problems, and it is on the surface only. But when we intend to root it out, then we'll have to go to the roots. And in the roots, there are all the dark powers, darkest powers, which are very cautious not to let someone in. And they keep their forts intact. They do not let anyone come into their region, so that they can be seized of the power they hold right now. He has gone there. Then later, again, I'm reading a few stanzas. The earth is ours, a field of night, for our petty flickering fires. How shall it brook the sacred light or suffer a god's desires? This earth is ours, but it is still steeped in darkness, in night. But what we see it to be a beautiful world, getting a little bit of satisfaction somewhere here, somewhere there, and we feel that it is fine, but it is not. Intermittently, we have to face again the troubles, the difficulty. In fact, it is much more than the joy we get normally in our life. But he says, how shall it brook the sacred light or suffer God's desires? But these things cannot endure too much. And because our vessels, our being is not purified enough, how can it hold God's splendor when He comes, when He takes possession? He cannot take possession if it is not purified. That is why he says in the next stanza, come, let us slay him and end his cause. Then shall our hearts have release from the burden and coal of his glory and force, and the curve of his wide white peace. So he urges humanity that let us slay all the enemies within us who are opposing our godlike march, who always stands in our path towards Godhead. Until and unless, he says, until and unless we slay him, the demon, our hearts shall have no release, and the burden will still be there. Then again, a voice cried within him. Then a voice gives, cries out, "Go where none have gone, dig deeper, deeper yet, till thou reach the grim foundation stone and knock at the keyless gate." Then from within him, a voice cries that go deeper, more deeper. Even if you have suffered, even if you have seen so much which is totally dark, but that is not the end of it. You will have to go right up to the root where only lies the solution. In the process, you will have to take all the pain and suffering, illness, and even if it is required, then death upon your shoulder if you wish to find a human melody. All these problems, if you wish to solve for the humanity, for human race, then you will have to go through all this. So he goes down right up to the morass. And he also says that it is a keyless gate because up till now, none have trodden that path. It is something like, when we see carpets in our places, in our home, and normally what we do not do, we do not bring out the carpet and clean up under the carpet what is lying there. And if you do not do it, then eventually it will spill out. All those fields will spill out from the carpet, under the carpet. One day, another day, it will keep on coming up. So it is like this. If we do not solve the problem at the roots, then it will keep on coming always to us, and there is no way out. We can find an immediate solution, but that is a temporary one, and it will go away very soon. So till now, all half-hearted, that is why it is called half-hearted, because all these, whatever measures have been taken till now with our human mind, all this intelligence put together even, and to some extent a little bit of spiritual power acquired and put into action, but still that is not enough. If we have to solve it permanently, if we have to be freed from all ignorance, all lower natures, which consequently bring us to the precipice of dire situations, suffering, pain, then illness, and finally death, then we have to root it out from the lowest levels where it is lying hidden. And that is where Sri Aurobindo has gone in himself. I saw that a falsehood was planted deep at the very root of things, where the grey sphinx guards God's riddle sleep on the dragon's outspread wings. I have delved through the Dharma's dreadful heart and heard her black mass bail. I have seen the source whence her agonies part and the inner reason of hell. So he has gone through all human being cannot imagine even. All the troubles, all the tortures, seen and unseen, everything he has taken upon his shoulders. Even his going away, leaving the scene from earth, is his own choice. Because by that time he knew very well that it is only by leaving earth and going to the subtle physical realm from which he has to work out whatever is needed afterwards in collaboration with the mother. So mother had to be there on earth because her body was much more receptive and pliable for a human body frame to hold all those powers which are yet to come. So we now know that God and nature, these are not two opposing or irreconcilable thing, and they complement each other, and when brought together, when harmonized together, they can fulfill each and establish a divine life on earth. Jai Ma. If you have anything to ask, you can go ahead, please.